$1,000, a lovely heart-shaped pendant or ring with 1.5 carats total gem weight. Just say charge it.
When it's important enough to last a lifetime. Gordon's Jewelers, where love is in the air.
On the next edition of Our Magazine, a young mother with AIDS.
I'm afraid right now. I'm afraid of death.
A touching conversation with an unlikely victim.
I got AIDS through a blood transfusion that I received in October of 1982.
Then meet Rodney Allen Rippey and the Oscar Mayer Kid, 14 years later. 7 nights in Hawaii for only $384. And Woman of the Hour Jane Seymour, all on the next Our Magazine.
Wednesday morning at 11 on Channel 5.
The People's Court. Find it weekdays beginning September 15th.
Good morning, I'm Bob Bruce, and it's great to have you with us today here on Twin Cities Live. You know, it's so often just the little things in life that we take for granted. Reading a warning label on a bottle of medication, a street sign, a job application. But for some 23 million American adults, reading cannot be taken for granted. They are part of a growing epidemic of adult illiteracy. But we can take action to reverse this trend and bring America's hidden problem out of the closet. This morning, you'll meet 3 people who are waging and winning their own private wars on illiteracy next on Twin Cities Live. Before I introduce our guest to you today, 2 little facts that in preparing for this program just absolutely blew me away. Number 1 is that by 1990, 3 out of 4 jobs in this country will require education or technical training beyond the high school level. With 23 million adults in this country who can't even read, that shows you that this is a problem that affects all of us. In addition, it affects everyone's pocketbook, up to $220 billion a year. That's the cost of illiteracy in this country. This is a problem that not only affects those of us who are not able to read at a proficient level, but also me and you and your family. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And with us are 3 very courageous people who have decided to do something about their illiteracy. We have adult learners with us. First, Curtis Mosley, who is now reading at the 3rd grade level. He's a prep chef at Perkins. Marilyn Burmeister, who's an adult learner, now reading at the 6th to 7th grade level. And then we have Flip Novak, who's an adult learner who just received his GED in January, which is the equivalent of a high school education. Let's jump right in there with Flip. You're pretty much along with this. You've got your high school equivalency. The difference between yourself being a person and your whole life now and before, when you were unable to read.
The difference, well, before I couldn't read, so newspaper or nothing like that meant nothing to me. Now, being that I can read, I enjoy the newspaper very much. But other than that, as far as my job was concerned, I didn't really have to read that much back then. But now, times are changing, so you got to be able to read much better than what I had to back farther.
Curtis, I think one question that a lot of us would ask would be, how in the world, in this country that is so rich and has such a vast educational system, can a person grow and become an adult and not know how to read or be able to complete basic math skills?
Well, the way I came about it was I was passed on from grade to grade. If you didn't know, you still passed on. You didn't stay in that grade. You made room for the other ones was coming along too, and they just passed you right on, even graduated you without knowing how to read, even math. And when I was born in 1945, then mostly everyone worked for a living instead of read for a living. And that's what I done. I worked on a farm for a living instead of going to school. But that's a long story. I was born in the wrong time in the wrong place.
Yeah, well, you were born in Alabama, and that particular time it wasn't a... Tell me about it, because you had problems getting in school, because at that time in the South, there were white schools, and there were black schools.
Right. You had to be one color to go to one of those schools, and which is my father was white, my mother was black. I wasn't accepted fully in either one of the schools, so I had to fight every day to go to school. So I don't know what happened to my mother and father, but the people who was bringing me up, they told me that I can do more good on the farm working than I would doing more good in the school fighting every day. So I was taken out of school and raised on the farm without going to school.
Marilyn, did you ever cry out that hey, I need some help here?
Well,
I'm not really retaining and I'm not really learning how to read.
I really didn't care at that time because I knew couldn't read, so I figured I'd just hide it. And then I couldn't help my children with their homework at school. And I decided I'm going to get some help. And I went through school, like you said, from grade to grade without reading. And I left school at 11th grade. And I was a housewife for 25 years. And I said, my kids were grown. And I said, I'm going back to school to learn to read. Because I was sick of asking people to help me. I wanted to do it on my own. So I went back to school. I'm 48 and left school in 56.
Is the toughest decision to make to come out of hiding? Because it has to be embarrassing. I mean, if you're an adult, you don't want to go out and say, you know, hey, I can't read. So what was it that made you finally say, you know, I'm not going to be embarrassed about this anymore. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to take the step and get some education.
Because I was tired of not be able to read ads on TV or fill out a form for work or reading a sign on the highway, and I wanted to get to do something with my life. I've got a grandchild that I want to help learn to read. When she goes to school, she'll be much better off and she'll get a better start than I did. And I want to help her to read before she gets into school. She's 7 months old.
Ernest, how do you work as a chef at a restaurant. How did you function? How did you read the orders? How did you know? How did you to fake it? You basically had to fake it, didn't you?
My last job I have now, corrective, it's Country Kitchen in Spring Park,
okay,
in the Minnetonka area. Well, I have a friend. He's part owner in the place, and I told him about my situation. I just got tired of going to jobs, not telling people that I couldn't read. I guess all of us in this situation, in my situation, we try all different things, and whichever one worked, that's the one we used the most. I tried telling people about my reading. I have been turned away from jobs I knew I could handle. I have went to jobs and told them that I couldn't read. I wouldn't tell them at all because I knew I wouldn't get hired. And they'd find out later that I couldn't, and it was like a goodbye job. So I went to this person, and I told him my situation. He said, okay, we'll help you. And one thing I have going for myself, I have determination. I try to be on time. I treat my boss as a boss. He treats me as an employee. Just things like that. But the reading and the writing, that he helps me with every day. Plus, I go to one-to-one tutoring, night classes. And I carry my work with me that I have to do on my job. All the things that you're cooking on the job, if you have recipes and things like that. And if you don't know how to cook them, I take them to class with me. And I go over them. The next morning I go back, I memorize them. And I can cook whatever you tell me to cook. Now, I graduated chef school in 1980. Now, you can't hand me a recipe that I can't read. I can read any recipe, but it is some books that I can't read.
It's got to be a great feeling inside to be able to do that.
It gives a person a good feeling that they don't have to be ashamed of. They have to think about going to someone else to help. You were just saying a few minutes ago about the medication. Now, I have walked in the stores and tried to buy medicine for colds and remedies and stuff like that, and couldn't read the labels telling me exactly what it does, if it makes you drowsy, if it don't make you drowsy, is it any good? So I have to go find me someone that works there to say, could you tell me about these?
You mentioned about people going to people for help and that sort of thing. Marilyn, you had children, and these children were coming to their mother for help with their homework and that sort of thing. This had to be a a terrible pain for you inside, that you couldn't help your children, and that I'm sure the children, when they're out amongst their peers, did their peers know that their mom couldn't read?
I think they did, but the kids tried to hide it. They said, well, my mother just can't read and she can't help me. And then I go at home, at night I cry because I felt so useless as a mother. And I felt so stupid. And they just went through school as best they could without my help. But I didn't feel like I was a mother, could help her kids with their homework. Because I didn't understand what they had brought home. I didn't know what they were talking about. And they said, why can't you help me? I said, I can't read, kids. I'm sorry. And they were they didn't say that I was stupid or anything. They just said, okay, we understand, Mom. We'll try and do the homework ourselves. And they did.
Flip, did you find that there are an awful lot of people in our society that looked upon you as saying, you know, well, you can't read. It's your fault. Why didn't you learn how to read? You know, I learned how to read. Why didn't you learn how to read? Did you find that some people had that reaction?
No. Matter of fact, I hid it pretty good. I don't think one or two people probably knew that I couldn't read. Otherwise, nobody knew it, that I couldn't read.
How could you hide that, though? How in the world? And we were talking earlier.
I just did it every day of the week.
Our whole society, everything we do, it's almost like, I believe either you or Curtis were talking about, it's almost like being blind.
That's the way it is. That's the way I'd put it. It was just like being blind, because they put you a newspaper in front of your face, and if you can't read it, you might as well be blind. What's the difference? You know, I'm a carpenter by trade, and of course I had no problem reading a ruler or framing square or nothing like that there, but when it comes to a newspaper, I was out in left field. I couldn't even read.
It's almost like being trapped inside of yourself. You know you can do more. You just know you can. But that reading problem holds you back. If I only knew these 2 or 3 words, I could go further than life.
Now you could do this here. If I could read, I could do this here. But you always got to take a back seat because you know you can't read it. So you got to kind of shy away and let somebody else do it.
And, you know, we're not
then
talking
you can
about...
come back when they started, then you can go ahead and do it.
We're not talking about just 3 people here. We're talking about 23 million people in this country. I'm sure, do you know other people who have problems with reading?
I do, and they're too embarrassed, they're too ashamed to go out to do anything about it. Else, it's not the help out there that they want. I've been to several schools, Job Corps, classes with other students in it. Only thing that works for me is one-to-one tutor. My tutor is not just a teacher to me. He's my friend, and as you know, we go through life with problems. Well, he takes time and sit and listen to about 5 or 10 minutes of my problems. It all helps. A tutor to me just can't be a teacher and that's it. They have to be more than just a teacher.
You talk about your tutor, and when we come back, we're going to meet Curtis's tutor, and we're going to find out how you and I and everyone can attack this problem in America, the problem of illiteracy, when we continue on Twin Cities Live.
Headache sufferers, have you been told to live with it? Then get a second opinion. Call the St. Clair Chiropractic Clinic now and get a free spinal examination and this contour analysis screening test. Simply call 698-6566. That's 698-6566 and set up your appointment for a free spinal examination. That's 698-6566. The St. Clair Chiropractic Clinic.
Mom, it's Susie. You know how you always said you get what you pay for? Wrong. I found a fruit juice drink as good as yours that costs less. I know, you'll say nothing's as good as Ocean Spray. It is Ocean Spray. Liquid concentrate. Just pour and add water. Same fresh fruit taste, still no preservatives, and it costs less than your Ocean Spray, so now we drink even more. Mom, your little Susie's getting more than she's paying for.
New liquid concentrate. It's good for you, America, from Ocean Spray.
It's a surprise party. It's Coit's Choice of the House sale. Save 20% on drapery cleaning. Save 25% on jet steam carpet cleaning. Order both at the same time. Surprise! Save 30% from the quality cleaner. Look, Coit cleans with a Q, and that stands for quality cleaning. Phone Coit during the choice of the house sale. Your drapes and carpet can look surprisingly young again.
Are you single and looking for that special someone? Oh, do I have a show for you tomorrow. Are you tired of the bar scene? Well, where do you go to find that Mr. or Ms. Right? How about a dating service? On Thursday, you'll get a chance to explore some local dating services and also meet some people who have actually met and gotten married thanks to dating services. It does happen. Come join us in our studio audience, 641-1298. That's the number to call for your free tickets to come down and be part of the audience for Twin Cities Live this Thursday. And I can't make any personal guarantees, but with all the dating services here and a big audience, well, who knows? You might just meet Mr. or Ms. right here on Twin Cities Live.
You and I can do something about a tragic problem in America, illiteracy. 23 million adults can't read or write beyond a 4th grade level. For the first time, 2 major networks, ABC and PBS, and all of their stations have joined forces in an unprecedented public service campaign. Project Literacy US Plus. Watch for our programs and join in the message. It's never too late to learn to read.
I think that's the message that all of us should keep in mind, that it is never too late to learn to read. Thank you for holding on the line. You're on the air now. Go ahead and ask your question here on Twin Cities Live.
Okay. I'd like to share a story with you that happened to me several years ago. I was a dental receptionist, and a middle-aged man came into the office and handed me his insurance form. At that point, I said, "You need to fill out your portion of the form," and he became very angry with me. And he said, "This is your job. You should be doing this." And we got into a real argument about it. And what I didn't realize until later when his wife phoned me was that he was illiterate. And it was really unfortunate, because if I had known that, I would have been able to handle it. So I just wanted to share that that's something that might come up, because I think there's so much shame involved in it that we don't always think of that part of it, that may be what's going on. And I learned a lot from that.
That is, I think we can all learn a lot from just talking about it, getting it out in the open so that people know that this exists in this country, and it is widespread. With me is Don, and Don is Curtis's, well, what is your title?
I'm a tutor.
You're a tutor.
That's right.
Now tell me about the special relationship. Now you didn't have, what do you do for a living?
I'm an engineer, and I became interested in tutoring because of the many hours that I've spent flying. I ran across this person coming in from Bogota, Colombia. And he could not speak a word of English. I couldn't speak his language. So we started to communicate by, I would say, here, tap my head, ring, tap my finger.
Yeah.
And then the community services at Westonka High School made it known that they wanted tutors. So I contacted this office, and with the good help of Shirley Georgie, who is the supervisor in this area, she arranged that so that I could go ahead and learn.
This takes time,
Yes,
your own
it does.
personal time, a lot of effort. What do you get out of it?
It's an unbelievable satisfaction. I can't help but get emotional when I see the accomplishments that we are able to make, and to see our student go from not being able to read, to enjoy the beautiful poetry of language, to be able to help himself and to gain stature in his community.
Tell me about what happened and the feelings when your student, the first time he really realized that he could read, when Curtis came to you and said, hey, I can do this.
Mm-hmm. We were studying this particular night, and I felt that Curtis was at a point where he could reach out and be able to see what goes on around him in the printed word. So I said, Curtis, tonight you're going to read a newspaper. He said, Don, you're off your trolley, So I got this newspaper. I picked out a paragraph at random, and I said, okay, Curtis, here it is. And we went through it, and Curtis read it. He syllabalized the words, and I would help him occasionally. And when we got through that paragraph, he picked up his newspaper, went into the living room where my wife was sitting, and he said, hey, I read my first newspaper. Well, you can't imagine what the feeling that you get as a tutor, seeing this appreciation for your efforts.
Curtis, you got to love this guy.
He's more than a tutor to me.
He's got to be a lot more than a tutor to open up that whole world for you.
Well, he took all of my embarrassment away. He gave me self-confidence. He just gave me more to think about than just didn't have an education.
Joining us now, Rick Raphael, who is a volunteer tutor like Don, and Debbie Tomzik, who is a program supervisor and tutor at Mounds View Adult and Continuing Education. And you work with Marilyn. Let me ask you, when it comes to tutors, now anybody can do this, can't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Knows how to read?
Anyone who can read themselves, anyone who understands the English language and who can read and write can be a tutor, and should be a tutor, I might add. In addition, a part of the 23 million that you spoke of earlier about, there are estimated 600,000 functional illiterates in Minnesota alone. And for all of the things that we've been able to do over the years, we don't have enough tutors to even scratch the surface. We're just beginning to be aware of the problem.
Go ahead.
My name is Scott Bickford, and I grew up being illiterate. My parents found out I couldn't read or write when I was in 6th grade. And if it wouldn't have been for a teacher, I probably wouldn't have got as far as I did. And I went all the way through high school, and I finally graduated at 5th grade reading level. And that was in the St. Paul schools. And eventually, when I don't know how I got in the Army, but I got in the Army, and their keep-up program taught me how to read. And right now, I'm at 10th grade reading level. I mean, that's pretty bad. I've already got two credits in college. But I'd like to ask a couple questions to the lady in the blue. Are you a teacher?
I'm a teacher, yes.
Okay.
That's what my certification is, and that's how I originally began in literacy. I currently supervise an adult basic and continuing education program, which has a professional staff, licensed professional teachers who serve the adult students, and also then a component of volunteers that work side by side together in a learning center.
Okay, I'd like to ask another question now. What would you say the most vital years for a child to learn to read and spell and that is? What would you say the most important years are for that?
I'd like to go back to something that Marilyn alluded to earlier in the program, and that is, I believe that a child that is read to by a literate parent and a child that sees reading modeled in the home is going to be that much more aware and receptive to learning to read. So I would say the very, very early years.
You mentioned you were in the Army. Were there other people in the Army that had problems reading?
Yeah, the majority of them, not to be discriminating or nothing, but we had a lot of Puerto Ricans and people from Latin countries that were from territories in the United States. They couldn't read English, but because it was a secondary language in their country, they could read enough and they knew enough math to get into the Army. And I also have a program that I've been interested in and trying to a solo teacher. If anybody be interested in it, it's called the Sing, Spell, Read, and Write. It's published by a company called Head Start, and it's with the 700 Club. And if anybody would like to put that or be interested in it, my home phone number is 488-9982.
Well, there are all kinds of programs. I mentioned the reason I asked him about his service in the Army is that this is another problem, in addition to the cost, is that our military services and our defense program is becoming more complex, more computerized, is that our defense system in this country could fail because we don't have literate adults who can go in and serve in the armed forces.
We're spending millions of dollars, billions of dollars on sophisticated weaponry, and we don't have people who can use it.
I had the opportunity of sharing a statistic last evening with one of my colleagues who's giving a talk today about literacy. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is not to pick on the United States Navy by any means, because this covers all branches of the service. But the statistic that they are sharing now is that 30% of the people who are recruited, the recruits in the United States Navy, come to them with a need for basic skills education.
Now we can talk about stats, and every problem has statistics. well, this percentage of this and this percentage of this. But Curtis, Marilyn, and Flip, they don't think of themselves as statistics. They're human beings that have something to offer our society. And we're not giving them that opportunity. Really, who shoulders the blame for this?
Since I went back to school, I feel like I'm a human being now, that I can get by in the world and I can get a job eventually. I feel more smarter. I just feel proud of myself that I can read than before I went to the school. The school's been terrific.
I'm glad you waited on the line. Go right ahead with your question on Twin Cities Live. Good morning.
Yeah, I guess that my story is the same as the last young man that talked. I was going to say that it's not only back in, say, 1945, but my husband was born in 1956 down in Texas. And he made it all the way to be a sophomore in high school and cannot read. He also went on then to be a supervisor of a sign hanging, well, they make billboards, supervised his own crew, and worked at that for many years, and then came up here, and that's when it really came into play that he couldn't read. Because up here, I don't know, down in Texas, there's a lot more manual labor, and up here, trying to get a job, filling out job applications, I had to go with him and read to him what, we had to write down, and lots of times I just filled it out for him. But it's hard because we have a 8-year-old son who reads better than he does, and comes in and wants to say, "Hey, Dad, what's here, what's on here?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, never mind, Dad," and then comes to me, and I know it hurts his feelings. But I think he's a little ashamed to go for help.
Oh, it must be a terrible thing to have to cope with. You're nodding your head, Curtis.
Yes, I agree, because, as you say, I had to work for a living, too. And I used to work in this factory over the university over there. And I was the night manager, and I know how to run every department throughout this factory. And I was the night manager telling everybody what to do. But I didn't tell the head bosses that I couldn't read in the office. So someone always wants someone's job. So someone wanted my job. They went and told the head man that I couldn't even read. Why should he get the job as night manager? So he brought me in the office, and he asked me, so I had to break down and tell him, no, I can't read. So he pulled the job from me. Although I wasn't costing him any money, I was making him money. But that reason, he took the job from me.
I want to say how much I admire your guest today, because I've worked with adults, and I found, amazingly, that most people who can't read are quite intelligent. To be able to survive and to be able to remember all that they have to remember to function. So I'm really, really impressed that these people would come and talk to us on a television show, because that's a big step. But I wanted to ask you, as you, especially the two of you that went through most of your schooling without being able to read, how did this make you feel as a child? Can you share some of your experiences as children in school, not being able to read, because, school is mostly reading?
Well, when I went to school, I went to a small school out in the country where it was first grade through 8, one instructor, and I don't know how many kids in that school really could read. And when we had a test or something like that there for like a spelling bee, everybody would stand up, and ones that could spell would stay standing, and the ones that couldn't spell would sit down and be done. So that was the end of that.
When we continue, we will continue to talk about one of the great social problems of our country today, and that is illiteracy. Next on Twin Cities Live. Stay tuned.
Introducing Slice, the soft drinks with 10% fruit juices, like new Mandarin Orange Slice.
We got the juice, we got the jazz, we got the taste that no one has. We got the juice, we got the twist. This is the taste you can't resist.
Mandarin Orange.
We got the juice, we got the splash. Orange Slice, we got the taste that no one has. On ice, we got the juice.
Diet too.
Orange Slice.
And
Steve Edelman.
I'm Sharon Anderson.
On our next Good Company, Debbie Reynolds will be here with a special petite fashion show.
And the bargain hunter, Vicki Audette, will show us some do's and don'ts about house painting.
Also, singer John Davidson via satellite tells us about his part in the upcoming new Hollywood Squares.
And Gary Lumpkin conducts a football clinic for women on how to enjoy the game.
All that's coming up Wednesday on Good Company. Join us here on Channel 5.
Next to heart disease and arthritis, low vision is the greatest handicap affecting older Americans. Hello, I'm John Forsythe, with a message about your eyes from ophthalmologists across the country. If you are a U.S. citizen over 65 and have vision problems, but don't have an eye physician, you may be eligible for medical eye care without additional cost to you. For more information, call the Eye Care Helpline today at 1-800-222-EYES.
We have all known her for years as the Twin Cities' reigning queen of household hints. We didn't try to remove a stain or a spot without consulting one of Mary Ellen Pinkham's books. So I'll tell you, she helped us out a lot. But what we didn't know was that Mary Ellen, during this whole time, was waging a very private and very secret battle against alcoholism. And after years of denial, she sought treatment for addiction and emerged sober. Please join us for Friday's Twin Cities Live and spend the hour with a woman that, well, we've all grown to love and admire. And you can come down, meet her in person, and be part of the show. 641-1298. That's the number to call for free studio tickets to Friday's Twin Cities Live, when our very special guest will be Mary Ellen Pinkham.
You strike me a little, Liberta, as a prisoner. Do you feel that way?
I guess I am in my own way. Because I'm to myself, stay to myself.
What would you like to read most?
The Bible.
It's incredibly courageous, Liberta, to be learning to read at 51. Is it also exciting?
Yes.
What's the best thing?
I can, the new words I've never can read now.
Simple little words?
Yes.
Such as?
Bird, wings, or anything, just small birds.
Well, you could not watch that ABC documentary without being moved. I want to bring up some stats here. We've talked a lot about statistics, but when you look at these, it will just absolutely stagger you. First of all, we've mentioned several times 23 million adults are functionally illiterate. That translates to 1 in 5 of us walking around who just aren't able to read. 35 million American adults are semi-literate. 13% of all 17-year-olds in the U.S. are functionally illiterate. Of minority youth, functional illiteracy now approaches 40%. Welfare and unemployment compensation due to illiteracy cost $5 billion annually. 13% of U.S. adults cannot address an envelope. Cannot address an envelope. Nearly a third of American adults cannot make change. Just the common thing of making change. 800,000 in Minnesota now. 800,000 plus adults are functionally illiterate. 671,000 adults have no high school diploma. 236,000 Minnesotans are below the most basic skill level and in critical need of literacy services. With us now is the Executive Director of the Minnesota Adult Literacy Campaign, Peter Pearson. I think, you know, you can look at the national statistics, but when you look, Pete, at the Minnesota stats, this state prides itself on having excellent schools and a great educational system. How are these people falling through the cracks?
Well, I think it's important to remember that when we look at the figures in Minnesota, we are talking about people who have never completed school. So a large part of the problem is the fact that we have people that haven't graduated from high school. A smaller percentage of the people have graduated from high school and still aren't functioning at that level. So I think it's important that we really concentrate on that fact, that we're giving people a second chance who never made it through school in the first place for a variety of reasons.
Good morning. You're on Twin Cities Live. Go right ahead with your call.
Hello. I was a Laubach tutor when I was in high school at Norris High School in Minneapolis. And I tutored a child who was a year younger than me, and she had 4 children. I was a junior at the time. And she wouldn't show up for school. How could I tutor her when she wouldn't show up for school? And I don't mean to criticize illiterate people for the, your panel. They seem very intuitive. They want to learn more. This girl just seemed like she didn't care. I was always frustrated. I didn't know what to do. So it makes me wonder, they're going through the same school system I went through. I had a 12th grade reading level in 8th grade. No, I don't understand how some people get it and some people don't. And she didn't show up for school, so I quit tutoring. I was so frustrated that I decided, well, heck, she doesn't want it.
Marilyn, do people who have trouble reading retreat into a shell, like maybe this young lady? We don't know her particular situation. I know when you're young and you can't read, there must be children picking on you that eventually you just try to hide and just get away from it all. Did that happen in your case?
Well, through high school and junior high, I was called a dummy, and you can't do anything in school, you shouldn't go to school, and I said, leave me alone. I said, I'm doing the best I can. So I went through school through 11th grade. I had to quit because my mother moved out of the district. I went to South High, the old South High. It would cost my mother $800. My sister had to go back. I got a twin sister who's illiterate too. And I had to quit school because my mom couldn't afford the money. And I hated my mother for that because I wanted to finish school. So I got married, and I decided it's time to go back. My kids are grown. I want my diploma.
Excuse me. I'd like to say something about the lady just called about the one that's not showing up for class and everything. Like I was saying, my tutor is more than a tutor. You have to find out the one that you're tutoring. You have to find out that person's feelings. Is that person comfortable in the situation that you are teaching them in, the surroundings? Now, what makes me comfortable, I go to my tutor's home. I go to his home, and he tutors me. And there I feel like it's no one else listening. I'm not embarrassed. I can be outspoken. We can even laugh about things that I misspell, missay. It's a lot of things that a person is going through that they won't show up for class. You have to work with them on their feelings as well as work with them trying to learn them how to read.
When we come back, I want to talk to Peter about the adult literacy campaign. What are we doing about it in this state? What's happening around the country? Are we trying to make a difference? Are people starting to get involved in this? That's next on Twin Cities Live.
Accident and insurance laws are complex, and if you've been injured in an accident, you're smart to put yourself in the care of a law firm like Schwabel, Getz, and Sieben. We'll help ensure you receive acceptable compensation for your injuries, medical care, and property damages. Does it cost more to hire a lawyer from Schwabel, Getz, and Sieben? No. In fact, there's no fee until your case is settled. For a complete recovery, call the law firm of Schwabel, Getz, and Sieben.
You get to feeling kind of special because you're special at your country club market, your neighborhood store.
This week's specials, Bluebonnet margarine in 1 pound quarters, just 39 cents. And look at this price on Tropicana frozen orange juice, just 59 cents for a 12-ounce can of regular or home style. Pick up your favorite kind of delicious ragu spaghetti sauce, just $1.39 each.
What's really special at Country Club is you.
Hello, I'm Ruth Spencer.
And I'm Stan Turner. On last night's Eyewitness News Update, you found team coverage of the winners and the losers in the Minnesota primary election.
Later today, we're going to find out what future plans the candidates are making on the day after and what the losers are now saying about their former opponents.
And we'll find the latest on Ricky Foggy's future as the Gophers quarterback.
Find it on time. Find it on time.
Join us tonight on Minnesota's news station.
Good morning. I'm glad you could join us this morning for what I think is a program with great meaning. Go right ahead with your question on Twin Cities Live.
Yes, hi, Bob. My name is Jim Ramsey, and I was on your program the other day on single parents, and I have a comment. For example, I have a little boy that has problem reading, and where his problem is in the structured class itself, where they're trying to teach him how to read, and he can't cope with it. He can't understand what they're saying. So they send him to these classes called SLBP, where there's a structured class, and he was told by one of the boys in his class that SLBP means where stupid little boys play, for example. Now, I've looked around the country, and I've seen a lot of children playing together that couldn't even speak the same language, yet they could relate to one another. Where the problem is, I think, is in the structured classes themselves. And kids are trying to understand what the teacher is saying, and they can't relate to that child. But other children could. And if children were given a time within the reading class where they could relate to one another and work with one another, I think children could teach children faster than the teachers could themselves.
Marilyn, you're shaking your head. You want to jump in here?
Yes. My 2 kids have been on that program since they were in kindergarten. And if it wasn't for that program, my kids would never graduate from high school, and it was the best program they ever got into. They felt a little... Carol said, my stupid... I said, no, you're not stupid, Carol. You're just getting help. And that program was terrific.
Is this a big problem, Debbie?
Well, I think to appreciate what your phone guest is saying, education has come a long way since the days that I was in high school. They have wonderful offerings now in the K through 12 program. That doesn't alleviate the problem we have out there with adult non-readers. And there are people who are involved in education that are not necessarily doing their jobs well also. And we run into those kinds of things every once in a while, just like you can find a poor doctor, a poor barber, someone who perhaps shouldn't be doing what they're doing. The comment made to his son was totally inappropriate.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I think we all agree on that.
And horrendous.
Well, Peter, why are we suddenly hearing about this? I mean, why... now you see ABC involved with it, the Public Broadcasting Service, Project Illiteracy, suddenly all this publicity. What caused all this? Because this problem just didn't crop up in the last month or two.
No, it's been a slowly increasing awareness, I would say, in the public. Programs to serve adults began back in the 1960s and began growing in the 1970s. We've just started seeing more about them in recent years, and I think Project Literacy US, this broadcasting campaign by ABC and PBS, has been very significant, as well as the involvement of the private sector. Here in the Twin Cities, for instance, we have corporations and foundations that have taken a real serious interest in literacy, and that puts it on everybody's mind.
Well, they have a vested interest because the corporations, they can't lose. If it doesn't cost them money, it makes them money by getting literate adults that can work for them and be productive adults.
There are very few people that I've spoken to who are opposed to the concept of what we're doing, trying to get more adults involved in programs. It benefits everybody. It's a no-lose situation.
Good morning. You're on Twin Cities Live. Go right ahead with your call. Are you there?
Yeah, hi,
Good morning.
The reason I'm calling is because I, too, am a tutor, and I'd like to tell you about, I guess, the most outstanding student that comes to mind is one who graduated from Blaine High School, and he was, I would say, above average. In fact, I think he'd been tested, and they said he was above average. He did not know the alphabet. He could not read the test sentence which I gave him. The cat sat on the mat.
They said, wait a minute now, I didn't understand something here. They said he was an above-average student and he graduated and he didn't know the alphabet?
He was above average academically. In other words, his IQ was above average. But he graduated and did not know the alphabet and could not read one word from the sentence, the cat sat on the mat. Not only was he academically above average, or his IQ was above average, but he was very well behaved. He came from a good family. His parents had made a huge effort to buy books, to do everything they could to encourage him. The problem was the reading system, and that's something that never comes up in all these programs. And I appreciate these programs, but I get so upset that they never discuss the real root cause of this problem, which is the reading programs used in 85% of our schools from coast to coast, public and private, are using a system called the Look and Say system. And this was designed back in the 1800s for deaf-mute children who could not utilize sounds to help them with reading. The thing is, they're being taught to memorize the shapes of whole words. For example, a local school that I'm working with right now is using the Macmillan system. It calls itself a phonics system, but in fact it has no real phonics at all.
Well, let me jump in here and let me ask Debbie, what do you use when you teach adults to read? Which system do you use? And is this a problem, the system that we're using with our schools? Is that the culprit?
I think one of the things, I'm not sure where your caller gathered her information, but I think it's important to remember that in a group of 20 people, they are not all going to be successful learning to read the same way. And so we have the wonderful opportunity to have technology now, computerized opportunities, software that will work with people. We have a system now that's called from the top down, where you take a huge comprehensive experience of an adult non-reader, perhaps their Thanksgiving dinner, and have them verbally exchange that with you and then pick out the important words. A lot of phonetic reading going on out there.
We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Budget Power, the home improvement expert, makes remodeling excitingly affordable during the Builderama sale. Enjoy the natural color, grain, and texture of wood when you use Olympic semi-transparent or solid color stain. Enjoy the rich colors and the quality performance of Olympic stain. Design a marble top for your bathroom with Lippert cultured marble vanity tops. Hundreds of styles, colors, and sizes. Experience the extraordinary. Relax and unwind in a Romanesque spa. Comes complete with redwood skirt and thermal cover. Shop the Builderama sale at Budget Power.
Expect the unexpected on the new Hollywood Squares with host John Davidson.
Welcome to the new Hollywood Squares.
It's Hollywood Celebrity Game Show.
I'm ready.
And the stars are playing for laughs.
There are certain things a woman should never do. What's at the top of the list?
Point and laugh.
With an all-new set of rules.
What is that? Burt Reynolds' tongue.
Join the all-star fun this fall on the hilarious Hollywood Squares.
The all-new Hollywood Squares. Find it on 5.
The people of the People's Court.
Once I got there, I realized it was very real. The lights hit me and the music's going da-da, da-da, and I thought, oh my God, this is really it. I had never been in court before. It was all new to me. When Judge Wapner came back in and told me that I lost, I felt really bad. However, after he thoroughly explained the judgment and the reasoning why, I understood that he was right on.
The People's Court, absolutely undeniably real.
The People's Court. Find it weekdays beginning September 15th.
Imagine, if you will, a world that is completely dark and not being able to see the beautiful things around you. The world would be a difficult place to live, don't you think? Now I want you to imagine a world that is completely silent. Now, you were able to see or hear me for only a few moments, but to blind and deaf individuals, those moments last a lifetime. On Monday's Twin Cities Live, you'll hear the stories from people who are both blind and deaf. Then give us a call at 641-1298 and join our studio audience and find out about the unique ways that blind and deaf individuals communicate. It'll be a show that you'll want to be here and be a part of it. It's 641-1298. That's the number to call for free studio tickets.
He used to come to me with comic books and say, Mommy, would you read this to me? Tell me what this is. And I used to feel bad because I couldn't do it. By me not being able to read, I robbed my child out of a lot of childhood stories and characters. There's some things I can read for myself and some things I still can't, but I am trying. I'm more proud of myself. I'm not the person in the dark anymore, you know.
It's never too late to learn to read. If you need help, or if you can help someone else, call this number.
I think the important part of that is that if you need help, the second part, or if you can help someone else. Curtis, Flip, Marilyn, what would you say to people watching in our television audience today? How would you tell them that they need to get involved and become tutors and to help attack this problem?
You mean be a student or a tutor?
No, to be a tutor.
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Well, the tutor. What would you say to people like Don? People who maybe think that, you know, well, maybe I should become a tutor, but I'm not really sure. Why should they get involved with this? Curtis?
Well, I don't know. I would say I know they would feel good about what they're doing because I feel good what someone trying to do with me to show me a better way in life. and I don't feel so trapped. I feel like I can enjoy books as well as someone else now. And being a tutor, I think it's a nice thing to be. I think it's a big help in this world.
Oh, I know what you mean. It's to help people to have a better life and to go on with their life and not feel like they can't do anything like reading, and know that they help somebody to bring their reading up and feel good.
Flip, you've got your high school equivalency now. For the tutor that helped you unlock that major barrier in your life, that must have been great for him or her.
Yes, it was a lady, and I know she spent a lot of nights with me. I can't believe that she put up with me what she did. Because when I went to school, I knew nothing about phonics, and that's how she taught me how to read. She taught me the phonics way, and I think if a person knows the phonics, you'll have no problem of reading or writing or spelling if you know the phonics the proper way. And like I say, that's the way I've learned it.
Rick, how did you find out about this, and how did you get involved in it?
Well, about 3 years ago, I had a need to become involved and get out of my own particular cycle of writing, but I didn't want a basket weaving type of thing. And I was at a dinner party one evening when a person who was with one of the major companies that were supporting the program told me about it, and it sounded as if this were meaningful. So I contacted the Minnesota Literacy Council and applied for their tutoring workshops, which are conducted throughout the year.
Well, let me stop you right there. Tutoring workshops, because I'm going to move over to Debbie, because this is sort of your area of expertise. Anyone can become a tutor. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely.
If you know how to read?
I'd like to say yes, because I'd like everyone who has the remotest idea to do it.
You don't have to have a master's degree or something like that.
You don't have to. You have to care about these adults. You have to be willing to say it's okay where you're at. I'm going to help you move forward from there. You need the warmth and the care and the concern. And we train our tutors with professionals that are prepared in colleges and universities and licensed educators. There's wonderful things happening in training for tutors as well as educators.
What kind of time investment are we talking about here for a person, like say I wanted to enroll in the program? How much time would I have to spend each week with a student and that sort of?
In the Minnesota Literacy Council and the Minneapolis Literacy Project, which is a part of it, we ask for a one-year commitment from a tutor for at least 1 hour a week. And happily, we get that and much more. I tutor anywhere from 6 to 8 hours weekly, but I have the time, 1 hour a week for at least a year.
Let's stop right there, and when we come back, I have some important information for you and some phone numbers when we continue on Twin Cities Live.
Introducing Slice, the soft drinks with 10% juice, like Cherry Cola Slice.
We got the juice, we got the twist. Cherry Cola Slice, we got the Cherry Cola Mist. Cherry Cola Slice, it's got real juice. It's a one-of-a-kind cola, only one you find cola. It's a very Cherry Cola Slice. It'll really blow you over. Cherry Cola, move over from this very Cherry Cola Slice. We got the juice.
Diet 2.
Cherry Cola Slice.
If you've never been to Treasures Island, you've missed the Midwest's largest selection of infant, juvenile, and teenage furniture at the lowest possible prices. Hundreds of cribs, dressers, strollers, car seats, high chairs, and playpens await your selection. And if your child is ready to move into bunk beds, trundle beds, or captain's beds, you'll choose from a wide selection of quality furniture with matching chests, desks, hutches, and nightstands. All in stock at prices you can't find anywhere. So come to Treasures Island. It's a whole world of children's furnishings.
On the next edition of Our Magazine, a young mother with AIDS.
I'm afraid right now. I'm afraid of death.
A touching conversation with an unlikely victim.
I got AIDS through a blood transfusion that I received in October of 1982.
Then meet Rodney Allen Rippey and the Oscar Mayer Kid, 14 years later. 7 nights in Hawaii for only $384. And Woman of the Hour, Jane Seymour. All on the next Our Magazine.
Wednesday morning at 11 on Channel 5.
want you to grab a pencil and paper and write down these numbers. National Literacy Hotline, 1-800-228-8813. And then we've also got the Basic Skills Hotline. There you have it, 644-6631. That's in the metro. And statewide, 1-800-222-1990. And free private one-to-one reading lessons, statewide, 636-3499, 224-4601 in St. Paul, and 872-8811 in Minneapolis. And if you didn't get a chance to write those down that fast, you can call City Line or the Twin Cities Live office and get those numbers. Peter, tell me about the campaign, Minnesota Literacy Campaign. How can we all get in this thing and attack this problem?
The Minnesota Adult Literacy Campaign was developed in response to a governor's task force on adult illiteracy in Minnesota. There are several groups that offer literacy services for adults across the state, and the Literacy Campaign is an attempt to facilitate a coordination of those programs so that more students can be served. Some of the things that the campaign does would be to increase public awareness of the problem. We offer the Basic Skills Hotline, which you listed as one of the numbers here, and we're doing a long-range plan to present to the governor for what we should do in the long run with this problem.
And I want to make everybody aware. Now, Thomas, stand up. Give me your full name and what you do.
Oh, Thomas Shelby. I'm a student at Technology for Literacy Center.
Okay. This is more than just reading. This has to do with math also.
Math, yeah, that's what I'm there for, math. And speaking of what they were talking about earlier, this is something I wrote in a little paper we have there about people who do go back to school. Would you like to read it?
Which one is it?
Thomas Shelby.
This one in here? Last week I had the opportunity to speak during an interview with KSTP. I didn't have the chance to express my feelings about my classmates. I think it takes guts, for lack of a better word, for an adult to come back to school. The hard part being when your test score indicates you're at an 8th grade level in whatever subject, the ego doesn't like that. It takes humility to learn. Humility means you're teachable. Being here with others behind or ahead of me encouraged me to try harder. I hope other students feel the same way. Sincerely yours. Sort of sums up what it's all about, isn't it?
Here's my instructor, Lou Watson.
So it's math and reading, and I just think the accomplishment of taking an adult who is within themselves and releasing a totally new personality has to be a great feeling.
It is a great feeling. I've been in adult education for 15 years, and I've loved every minute of it. It's the most satisfying work I've ever done.
Debbie, maybe I should ask you this. Prognosis for adults learning to read. Is the horizons just wide open for them?
I hope so. I believe it is. I think with all of us working together, the Minnesota Adult Literacy Campaign, all the components of that, the media, people that are here today and watching us at home, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to make changes.
Just a few seconds left for the three, Curtis, Flip, and Marilyn. I want you real quickly to tell me the best thing about being able to read, real quickly.
The best thing is a whole brand new world out there waiting for you.
Okay, Marilyn?
That I don't have to ask anybody else for help. I can read it on my own without asking anybody to do it for me.
It's a whole new world out there for me, too.
Thank you all for being with us today.
Hotel accommodations and dining provided by the Radisson University Hotel, 615 Washington Avenue Southeast on the University of Minnesota East Bank campus. Limousine service for the guest of Twin Cities Live, provided by Henderson Chauffeured Cadillacs. Hair and makeup, courtesy of the Hair Forum, Westbrook Mall, Brooklyn Center.
Yeah, I have a question here. There's a lot of people that have a learning problem reading when they were in regular classes and were thrown in special classes when they shouldn't have been there, and they lost out. And I don't think that should have been, because they didn't have the technology they have today to help these people learn in a different way, so they were thrown in with people that were so-called maybe mentally retarded.
You'd like a response to that? I'll go back to something I said earlier.
We're only 21 right now, and, you know, the older you get,